Well, I could talk about one thing. I don't feel like running to the doctor about everything is always making people's life better. And a lot of people don't like it when you say that, but I've just been noticing certain things in general.
Mm-hmm. Like
Like,
what?
well, like sometimes people, a doctor, a nurse, they'll recommend a certain operation to someone, and I'll be like, well, do you think that's a good idea since you're a young person? Like, do you really think that's going to make your life better? And what if you start suffering from complications from that operation? Because things can go awry and it's elective surgery. But when you tell somebody that and they're now having complications, they get defensive and they don't agree with you. Like, I'm not going to say specifically who it is,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like it's a topic we can't really discuss. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. Especially when they've already made a decision, so they don't want to hear that their decision might not be the best.
And I should have said that to this person, but I was just concerned because they said I was wrong and that they were right and this was a great idea. And I had my reservations, but this is the thing I don't like. Like you can never disagree with like one doctor's opinion, but it is an industry. There are many types of doctors. They do profit from certain surgeries, whereas you could get a second opinion. A doctor that really cares might give you some ideas and tips and tricks on something you could do to alleviate a certain situation, especially since it wasn't a life-threatening illness. It was elective surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like maybe I shouldn't discuss that because it's a very controversial topic and people
No, no,
don't.
no. I'll be happy to talk about it. I know I have some things to contribute on that too. So,
Okay.
but while it wasn't my main topic, I guess I could add that. And elective surgery or something like that. Elective medical procedures.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm going to add that on there.
And I will find your channel so I can share it.
Yeah, it's my secondary channel. This is one of the secondary live shows. Oh, I do have something new about art.
Oh, nice.
Not my art, but did you know that Louisa May Alcott's sister, who went by the name of May, was the person that she based Amy on in Little Women?
Oh, I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that there were many similarities between her family and the actual Little Women. The only difference being is there's some speculation about Louisa May Alcott's love life that it's much different than what was portrayed in the books, of course.
Well, of course, but no, I'm speaking specifically about the fact that her sister was actually a painter.
Okay, I didn't know that. I knew that her sister was the person who was based in the books, but I didn't know she was actually a painter. But that would make sense because there was the storyline where she went with their grandmother to Paris and she studied the art, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was the grandmother, wasn't it? The Aunt
Or
March.
aunt. It might have been the aunt, yeah. But I just that
Yeah.
would make it kind of would make sense, I suppose.
Yes. Well, I always thought that Amy was kind of an annoying character, not because of the art, but because of the way she behaved. But it could be that that was just how, Louisa chose to portray the artist in the family,
Yeah, but okay, the impression I always got from Amy was that she was more like she wanted to be more like upper class, more refined, whereas
Yeah, I know. She sounded snooty. She
yeah, and I
sounded
think that
like,
and they were more like tomboys. They wanted to do things that like put on plays, and I think they just had different life ideas.
yeah, but being a social climber is one thing, and being an artist is completely
Oh
different.
no, definitely. Well, you could be both. I mean, I'm not saying you can't be both. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. So I don't know. I need to look into her art because she actually did leave art behind.
That's interesting. Now in the book, in the movies, it turned out her art wasn't the best. And so I'm guessing in real life
Right.
that's a different story, right?
Well, here's the thing. Whether somebody's art is the best or not is a matter of opinion.
Yes.
So, you know, when there are siblings and one of them is a writer and the other of them is a painter, for the writer to have put her painter sister in the book and made her be snooty
Mhm.
and not a very good artist.
Oh, I see. Like she kind of was like downplaying her, whereas her character was like, "Oh, I'm so creative, but I'm being held back by the fact that I have to write noir fiction, and I really want to write this." And like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. So I just out of curiosity, someday I would like to take a look at May Alcott's actual paintings.
okay.
I can have an opinion of my own without
Oh, for
anybody.
sure. Yeah, I think we could definitely do that. I know a lot about their dad too, Bronson Alcott. He's very interesting. He started like this farm, but it had this really weird concept where everybody was supposedly going to farm, but at night they were going to talk about books and transcendentalism. But there was one
Oh
problem.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's another one of those communes. Yeah,
I know, it's just funny.
totally. Yes, that usually doesn't work, but they, you know, when you're in an intellectual family, they get a lot of ideas that don't work. Um, Actually, she lived in Orchard House, and I have an Orchard House, and I didn't even name it after that. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's not like I was thinking, oh, I'm a Louisa May Alcott fan, and I'm going to name it Orchard House. That wasn't what I was thinking at all. I
No.
mean, of course, I'd read Little Women. Who hasn't? But I wasn't really a Louisa May Alcott fan at all, and I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. But uh, Orchard House, there was a reason why I called it Orchard House that has nothing to do with that.
But see, I had thought for a long time your house, Orchard House, is very charming, and I thought it would be the perfect place for somebody that does want to write to get away from like the city or something. That's why I think it would be a great option. So
Yeah, well, uh, seeing as things are not going well on that street, probably not. I don't know.
yeah,
Things,
not anymore. I guess it's a shame though. It's really beautiful. So
yes, it is. It is very beautiful, but I have to sell it, and that's all
I
there is to it.
understand. Yeah.
Uh, but so one of the things I want to talk about is insults as speech acts, but we were also going to talk about sometimes the doctor will tell you that maybe you should have some kind of surgery.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
do have some thoughts on that. Like, I'm gonna share like what it is I'm talking about. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's about having a second opinion or just thinking through. And my opinions on this are definitely not popular, especially when you talk to people that are very into going to the doctor for everything. They are not going to agree with you. But if their health is beginning to suffer because of something that they keep doing and the doctor or the doctors they're going to are not helping the situation, I think sometimes we need to step back and think, is that always a good idea? That's all. I think we need to be our own advocates for health, because just because you're going to a medical professional doesn't mean they're a specialist. It doesn't mean that they have enough information on your specific symptoms or case or something that might be maladiing you to make it better. So you just have to be your own health advocate at the end of the
yes,
day, because that a
absolutely.
particular doctor is not invested in you personally. They're not sitting at home like thinking about you every second. And this is reality.
Yeah, yeah. I just shared that on my other channel.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
I agree with you on that. And there's another aspect of all this. A lot of times you will tell someone, you know, like I like to share my keto experiences, my
Yeah,
you know, my dietary
that's fine. There's nothing wrong
stuff.
with that.
Yeah. But sometimes people will say, well, you know what? I think you're right, but since I have this and that condition, you know, it might be that they have a heart condition or blood pressure, or somebody has decided they have kidney disease or liver disease or
Hmm.
whatever. They'll say that would have been a good thing for me to do a long time ago, but I can't do it now. Or they might be diabetic, you know, and a lot of times, for instance, a diabetic person, if they just cut out some of those carbs, because you know they need to take insulin for the carbs, but if they were not eating any carbs, then they wouldn't need to take it, and so if even they just cut it down a little, that could make their condition better. But they'll
Yeah.
say things like, I have to strictly follow my doctor's orders right now because I have this condition, whatever the condition happens to be. But a lot of times that condition is exacerbated or even brought about by certain dietary choices that they've been living on for a really long time. But once they're under a doctor's care, you really can't talk to them about it anymore.
Well, see, but that's sad because it's one doctor's opinion. Doctors are not dietitians. Like a lot of them do not have a diet. They're not dietitians. So you have to think about it that way too. They may be a doctor. They're going to prescribe medicine to bring down like your blood sugar and things like that, but they're not dietitians. So you have to think about it that angle.
The problem with doctors nowadays is that they're not practicing holistic medicine in the sense that they don't care about the rest of the body. Whatever part of the body they're interested in, they just focus on that. And they don't realize the body is a system, and one thing feeds into another thing. So actually doctors should be interested in diet. They should
be, but I don't foresee that unless you're talking to like a holistic doctor and they're into the new, like thinking more broadly about things, maybe open to Eastern philosophies on medicine. I feel like if you just have more of an open world view as a doctor, yes, you're going to be, but the particular doctors that I've been talking to this person about, again and again, they keep telling this person to do things that I just don't agree with, but you can't, this is the thing, you're not supposed to have an opinion about that, but then when you start to see someone suffering because a doctor probably did a procedure and there's always a risk when you do elective surgery, and then there's like repercussions, but you can't comment on those because that person was right.
Yeah. And there's this idea that there are parts of our body that you can snip out and there will be no consequences. But there are, one system in the body feeds into another system in the body, and there are always consequences because it's.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. So, but I'll let you talk about your topic first because that wasn't what we were going to plan to talk about. That was just kind of what I was thinking about.
Well, it's okay. Go ahead and say more on your topic.
Like, I don't want to go into specifically exactly, like, I'm not going to say who the person was, but I do think this is of general interest, especially to maybe women in their late 30s, early 40s, maybe early 30s too. So some women have female problems and they think if they get a certain procedure, then it'll be great because they won't have a certain monthly thing. But I said, you know what? I don't think you want to do that. Like, this was just my opinion because I've read like the repercussions of this. There's a lot of really bad repercussions. You don't want to medically like shorten that. And the side effect can be that you're having pain. They might have done something to your stomach. Like now you're having stomach problems that you've never had before. All sorts of repercussions. You're having like foot issues, like where your feet are beginning to swell, just things you never had happen before because of an operation. Because there are consequences when you do elective surgery like that. There are repercussions. You could be in more pain. You could have swell. Like, I just feel like you need to really think about these things. I'm not telling somebody not to do that, but now like your body's reacting to it. And to me, I just feel like it's really sad because I'm like, I'm not allowed to ever have an opinion about these things. Like, I can't tell someone I don't think that's a good idea, but they're like, well, my doctor told me that this is a great idea. And I said, did you go to another doctor and ask? Did you go to a more holistic doctor and ask? And they're going to be like, well, no, my doctor said that this was a good thing to do, so I'm doing it. So they just did whatever their doctor said. They didn't get a second opinion.
I've had that happen too. I mean, I had a friend a while back who chose to follow her doctor's suggestion to have a hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason was because she was in a lot of pain during her periods. Okay. And I said, don't you think maybe there's some other way to deal with that besides?
Yeah, exactly. Like diet, maybe change something with your diet.
Yeah. So anyway, she did. And well, I told this other friend what was going on. She said, here's what usually happens after that, a divorce. And sure enough, there was a divorce. And it's okay, and people get over that. But yeah, you don't want to. our organs affect our brain too. That's the other
Yes.
thing. There are hormones, and you think of them maybe as reproductive hormones, but it affects how you think, how you feel, everything.
Hmm.
It's also why I don't necessarily suggest going on the pill as your favorite contraceptive
Well, they've
method.
actually found a lot of bad repercussions to that. Like in recent years, it's been shown that natural ways of birth control are actually better, things that people did in the past, like haha, the rhythm. But there's actually some scientific proof now showing that it's probably better to find natural forms of birth control as opposed to using synthetic ones. So
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
mean,
people,
anything that affects your system is not a good thing. Anything that just kind of makes it like it didn't happen, that's fine. But
mhm,
if it actually affects the chemicals in your system, you're going to affect the chemicals that go to your brain. And I'm not a person who, it's not about the shape of your body necessarily. It's, to me, it's your mind that you really don't want to hurt. And your
yeah,
mind is affected by those chemicals.
yes, definitely. So it's just so controversial though. You can't, people can say openly, I'm going to go to my doctor, I'm going to get this procedure done, and that's okay. But if you question it, it's not okay.
I mean, listen, when I was a young girl, a very young girl before everything else happened, um, when I was a teenager, a very young teenager, I thought, oh, I hate my period. And as soon as I have the number of babies that I want to have, I will have everything snipped out. But, the more I learned about those things, the more I realized, no, I'm not going to do that, even if it has nothing to do with having babies or wanting to have babies.
It's better to prolong it because the longer you menstruate, it's better for your health because the sooner you go into menopause, that can have repercussions. You don't want to like enter that too early. You want to let
Right.
your body take its natural course. That's the best
Yeah, I
way.
agree.
But I'm not allowed to say that to people because they're like, no, you're wrong. This is so much better. But then I'm seeing this thing where it's not so much better, but that's okay.
I know. You can't say it after they did it. That's the thing. You cannot,
Yeah.
because they've done it, and it's like, okay, they made a mistake, but you can't rub their nose in it now.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that I was trying to do that. I just know this person. So like I wouldn't tell a stranger that because whatever
Yeah,
stranger they want to do
yeah,
that, that's their life. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but I can't help it. I kind of just like if something. Sometimes I'm just very like
yeah.
on.
You have to, yeah, no, if it's a friend and they've made up their mind, you have to be supportive, even if you don't think it's the right thing to do. And then when they start suffering, you have to be supportive again and try
Yeah,
really hard not to say, I told you so, because it
yeah,
doesn't
and I
help.
shouldn't have. Maybe that's my fault. I said something. I should have kept my mouth shut. I shouldn't have said anything. But
Well,
okay,
yeah, but
I'll
I
tell you
but
why I did say something though, is because the same person thinks I should go to the doctor for like everything. And I'm like, I don't think you need to go to the doctor for like every single thing. They're like, well, what if like you have a sunspot on your face and that's skin cancer? And I said, well, you know what melasma is, like Mediterranean people get some discoloring
uh-huh,
on their face. That's natural. Like, but they're
yeah,
like, well, you should go get a test and see if this is skin cancer. And that's their solution to everything. They're like, they think I should go get testing for like everything. And I said, well, I don't want to. That's the only reason I said anything, by the way, because this same person will come back to me and tell me that I should be doing all these things that they do because this makes their life better. So that's
yeah.
really the only reason I said something.
Okay, yeah, I totally understand. And yeah, you know who tests my skin stuff? His name is Bo.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I have anything a little bit odd, whether it's on my face or my ear or
Mm-hmm.
my foot or my hand, he will check it out for me.
And
So
I'm
I,
not like, yeah, anti-doctor. It's not that. I just think you need to be more prudent. That's it.
yeah, I understand. And there's a huge difference between doctors. There are some doctors who are interventionists, and they think, oh, we have the scientific ability to fix everything. And there are other doctors who are better, in my opinion, who will say, listen, here's what you have, and here is the least interventionist thing you can do to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend that. So For instance, if you do get the flu, and sometimes people get the flu, it's not a big deal. You go to one doctor and he'll say, you have to take this special, what is that they give people the flu during the first 24 hours of it?
Oh, like a cold medicine kind of type.
No. There's a special, it's by prescription only.
Yeah, it's some sort of prescription. Honestly, I got that once many, many years ago, and I decided not to do it again because it made me feel worse, and I didn't see how that would make me feel better.
Yeah, there are side effects to that thing where it's actually kind of dangerous for you.
Mhm.
But anyway, what a good doctor will say is if he sees that, yeah, you've got the flu, yes, you do. He'll say, well, drink plenty of fluids
Yeah.
and stay home for until your fever comes down, and don't socialize with other people so as you don't.
Yeah, don't go out and this is actually a big thing that happens a lot. People will come in wearing a mask and they're like, I'm sicker than I've ever been in my entire life. I can't go to work, but they go to other public places like libraries, stores. That's interesting. So it wasn't exactly like, oh my gosh, about the measles vaccination. It was that these people proceeded to go from the hospital where they knew that they were sick out into the store, the supermarket. And they were going to all these public places, and the doctor probably told them to go home.
Yeah. So if you're supposed to stay home, really stay home. Stay home, stay in bed, get some rest, and that's the best way to get better.
Do you know how some of them went to Disneyland? They were like probably not supposed to go to the school that day, but then they took their kids to Disneyland. That was enough for it. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I would say if your doctor says to you, listen, there is this medicine, but I recommend that you not take it, then you probably have a good doctor.
Yeah, probably. And another thing too, my FYI about these things is years ago, I was suffering from some back pain and I learned to manage that on my own. It was just, you have to be careful with your back. But this doctor was a quack. The first thing he was recommending to me there was that I get back surgery. And I'm like, oh my
God, no.
And then he gave me all this medicine. He's like, this is good for you. And I went home because I like to research things, and I found out that it was being taken off the market because it had all these problems with it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I threw it away. And I'm like, yeah. So I've just discovered over time is if I was really ill and near death, yes, I would be at the doctor, but I'm not going to run to the doctor because I have some back pain or because I have like a Mediterranean thing with a slight discoloration where I might get a couple sunspots on my face. Like, you can if you want to. I'm not saying you can't, but just personally, I don't feel I need to go to the doctor for every little thing like that.
Right. I don't, as time goes by, we get more spots on our faces. That's just part of life,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just like I don't know. This is just a couple examples. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I got this on the dietary thing a lot, where I would just try to make a recommendation based on what somebody said the problem was.
Yeah.
And then I would hear, that sounds like a wonderful idea, but I can't anymore because I have to eat exactly what my doctor tells me to eat. And their doctor tells them to eat the wrong stuff,
Yeah. Well, another thing about doctors too is some of them are obese and they go out and they smoke cigarettes in the park on their breaks. So, okay, I'm not saying that that's all doctors, but you have some doctors that fall into that category. So they might know their stuff. They might have gone to medical school. They might do all the continuing education, but I don't think that those particular people are super invested in holistic health for each person that they're seeing. But that's just reality because there's good and bad and in between doctors. And that's true.
Of course, there's, in every profession, there's a variety of abilities. And also somebody can be wonderful in a particular specialty, but not know anything about something else.
Yeah, like especially general practitioner, they're just not a specialist and they might not always be interested in more holistic or nutrition, like just
actually general practitioners are better than specialists.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, I had a specialist tell me that one part of the circulatory system is not connected in any way to another part of the circulatory
system. Really? Okay, all
so
right. That's interesting.
That I'm going like, well, I guess I'm not going to let you operate on me.
I don't know. It's just in my case, I had the really good experience with specialists and just people I knew in the medical field. Were like,
I had some specialists that were really good specialists, where they're not really trying to tell you what to do. They just know a particular procedure really well, and they know it in and out because they have done it so many times.
yeah,
And they're able to discuss it with you intelligently. So I've had that kind of specialist too. But if you end up in the hospital with a specialist whose specialty is operating on certain parts of your body, but he doesn't know
oh,
anything about
yeah.
other parts of the body, I would be careful.
Well, no, I would definitely be careful with that. Yeah, that's for specialists. Like, well, when they start recommending different procedures, and then I've talked to people that like where they were told that they needed a hip replacement and a knee replacement, and they're like, but I went to the local Loma Linda University Medical Center, and they don't recommend all that. They're more holistic, and we really like this particular hospital because they're very holistic in their mindset. They don't recommend like a lot of elective surgeries, and that's just the hospital that I've always really liked. So I like them because they don't push all that elective surgery unless it's something that somebody really wants or needs. Like they try to educate you on alternatives as opposed to just get a knee replacement, get a hip replacement, because those can have repercussions too sometimes.
Right, right. Okay, well, so the other topic that I wanted to talk about was insults as speech acts. Do you have any idea what I mean by that? Or?
Well, can you explain what you mean by that? Because that's interesting.
Okay, let me explain what a speech act is first. You know, when we talk, we might be talking in order to just give each other some information or ask questions or answer questions. And that's substantive communication. But a lot of times people, because they are social animals, will say one thing and it will stand for something else. It will be a way to get someone to do something without requesting it. So for instance, if you and I were in a room together and let's say you were shivering and you said, oh, it's really cold in here. If I were just talking like a robot and, you know, or a person on the spectrum, I would say, yes, indeed, it is very cold and not do anything about it. Or if I were a little more human, I might say, would you like me to turn up the heat?
Yeah.
And you might say, thank you, yes. So that would be a way where you didn't tell me what to do because that's considered impolite, but you just kind of let me know. And then I decided what to do. But that would be like a speech act if you said that. And what you really wanted was for the temperature to go up. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. So, how is this coming to light? I'm just curious, like what scenarios? Is this like something that's in the news or?
Well, no, it's well known among linguistics. People who study linguistics, they know that certain statements are statements of fact, certain things are questions, and other things are speech acts where the meaning of the thing isn't the thing that is said, but it's a way to get somebody to do something.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So this is just like a topic within the linguistic community, like where you're talking about.
Right. So then we can talk about insults. So sometimes we insult people unintentionally. We are just, you know, we're thinking about our own stuff and we just mention something and it impacts the other person and it hurts their feelings. And when we find out that we did that, we're really sorry. We didn't mean to do that. And so we apologize, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Okay, that happens, and there are also misunderstandings, and sometimes we can iron out misunderstandings. But my point is that sometimes insults are actually speech acts, and the purpose of the insult is not to convey information. So if somebody says to somebody else, "You're ugly," that is not. It's not like they're trying to tell the other person he's ugly.
No, they have nothing to say. They just want to hurt that person, right?
Well, yes, maybe they want to hurt that person, but it can go a bit further. It might be they want that person to run crying out of the room and not be there at that moment.
Okay. Oh, it's a form of like posturing, like where you see this person, you don't want them as competition, and you can just derail what they're doing in a way, like by saying something like that that's not helpful?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, this is kind of a follow-up to what I said about forgiveness. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost a caveat. It's a saying, okay, what I said about forgiveness is true, but here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So, what I had said earlier about forgiveness is yes, you can forgive people, but they have to be sorry. They have to say they're sorry. They have to apologize, and they have to do something to make amends for whatever it is that they did. And then you can take them back, and the relationship can result in a reconciliation with this
Mm-hmm.
person. Okay, but maybe that was kind of naive on my part. That was assuming the person uh, did whatever they did out of either, innocence, like when you say something that hurts somebody's feelings, but that wasn't your purpose. Or even even that other thing that some people do where if they're really angry at someone, they'll say something hurtful, but as soon as the anger goes away, then they're sorry they did it. There are people like that.
Yeah, there are people like that, and that's very dangerous because it's almost like, and I've seen this happen where the person's angry, they'll say something that pops in their mind, but then later they kind of can act like, oh, well, I didn't really mean that. I was just angry, but then the other person's supposed to just accept. That can be.
Well, that's why, what I was saying about a situation like that is, okay, they need to realize how much damage they did, that it's not something you can just take back the moment you stop being angry. And you have to make amends, and you have to show that you're not going to do this again, even if you do get angry again. And then it's possible to forgive that person. But now I want to talk about a different situation. I want
Okay.
to talk about a situation in which things can't be fixed, and there can't be forgiveness and reconciliation for the very simple reason that the whole purpose of the insult was to end the relationship. Okay. And that does happen. So I can give you multiple examples, and you can probably think of some too. But let's say uh, there's a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and let's say the boyfriend is tired of the relationship and wants a way out. Well, he could just say, I want a way out, and say goodbye, or he could do something really thoughtless, insult her, say you're ugly, or you need to lose weight, or blah, blah, whatever. Something hurtful. She cries. She says, I don't want to see you ever again. And he goes storming out of the room. And then he doesn't ever come back. And when she sees them again, she says, don't you want to apologize so we can get back together? But he said, no, 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 you said you don't want to ever see me again. So I'll never see you again. And then she thinks it's all her fault because she got too upset about what he said. But that whole thing was a setup to let him out and make it seem like she wanted out of the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it easy for that person, the one that wants out, if they can say something that precipitates in somebody saying, I never want to see you again. And then later they can be like, oh, well, maybe I reacted. But the person that wants out, like, they're not culpable. They're like, well, you said you didn't want to see me again. And they're off the hook.
Right, exactly. And so there are lots of situations that are kind of like that, where the action is symbolic. It's symbolic of a breach of the relationship, and it's manipulative in the sense that it wants to bring about the end of the relationship. And sometimes the other party doesn't know that that is what's taking place. It's really kind of like what happened at Pearl Harbor. You could say what the Japanese did at Pearl Harbor was abominable. They're terrible people. That day should live in infamy. But that's a really innocent look on it. That what it really was something to do to get the United States to declare war, right?
Yeah, they wanted the U.S. to declare war. And have you heard, like, this is an aside, there were some Americans that said, well, I don't really fathom the side, but there were some people that thought, well, maybe we should have supported Japan and supported Germany. There were people that thought like that. Not that I agree with them, but there were people like, actually that said, well, we picked the wrong side and that's why Japan was, but that's not here nor there, but that's
yeah, it's neither here nor there. And the fact of the matter is that one of the American policies had been to just remain neutral and not pick a side.
yeah, we were neutral. Yeah, for sure. So they had to force us to break our neutrality in that act.
And we hadn't been completely neutral because we had already confiscated some of their ships and stuff like that before all of that happened.
Yeah, we weren't truly neutral because we were helping Britain.
Yeah, well, anyway, there was this thing. I happened to know that because I wrote Our Lady of Kaifeng.
No, I know you know all about that, of course.
Yeah, so a lot of people knew that it was only a matter of time before the war broke out, before the United States did get into the war. And in fact, FDR wanted to get into the war. He was just waiting for a provocation.
So yeah, because he didn't, well, because he basically had to pander to the non-interventionists, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he couldn't just be like, yeah, like he did want to go to war probably a whole year and a half before, but he couldn't. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, these people elected you, and you can't be like, yeah, I'm just gonna.
Right. So, yeah, I think that happens a lot. And I think when bullying happens, a lot of the actions by the bullies it's not that the bullies are just plain mean and they can't help themselves so much as it's a way to instigate the conflict, and it can sometimes be about something that they want. You know,
yeah, like that makes sense.
Like territory in a war. And okay, so this brings me to something that I've been seeing on my feed lately a lot. And it's basically this idea that people who are mean to other people are probably doing it because they're unhappy. And happy people are not mean to other people. I don't know if you saw that at all, but it's been circulating on Facebook.
I haven't seen it, but I'll just tell you the one reason why is because I only go to a few friends' pages, and if it's like the feed, like I think my feed's been culled down quite a bit to where I'll see that maybe, but I don't look at it, and I'm kind of just like looking at things you post or a couple other friends, and my feed just seems a lot like I only have a few people popping in my feed nowadays. I don't know. Do you have a lot of people that pop up in your feed?
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, I guess I have 800 friends or something, and I don't see 800 things in my feed, but I have a lot of different kinds of friends, you know, from different circles.
Yeah, different.
And I try to stay involved in what they're doing. You know?
Yeah. That's good. I think that's great. I guess it's just like something happened because I only started interacting. Like I see maybe 10 people in my feed now. Because I only interact with about 10 people on my Facebook page. Those are the people I see in my feed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think I have quite a few more, and they're from different groups. Some of them are political groups, you know, like libertarian groups. Some of them are writer groups, and some of them are chimpanzee groups. And so, and people who are interested in music because of the musical that I have with Daniel Carter.
I have a lot of interest, but I guess like what I'm trying to say is I think my feed's been culled down just because I'm not interacting with all my groups on Facebook. And if I do social media, I kind of tend to look at Instagram more than Facebook. I don't know. But I haven't seen this. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I disagree with that. Okay. And I can give you some examples from natural life, so it doesn't all look like I just hate people or something, you know. But so I've got 2 dogs now. The newest one is Romy. His full name is Romeo. And there's Leo. Leo is now the older dog. He used to be the younger dog, but
the baby.
Yeah. And Romeo is a sweet, sweet dog. I would not say that he harbors a lot of bitterness in his heart or that he's an unhappy person. He's a very sweet dog, but he's aggressive toward Leo. Okay. and aggressive in weird ways. Like he will push Leo aside. It's kind of like he wants to be top dog.
Oh, he does. Like, yeah, if he's pushing him aside, he wants to be like, I'm the top. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And he has this way of like, he puts his paw on Leo's face, and sometimes he body slams him. You know,
Oh,
it's not like he's trying to kill him or anything like that. It's not like that. He's not a seriously violent dog. He's actually a very sweet dog in his own way. But I do not tolerate that behavior because I keep telling Romy, Leo is top dog because he was here first, and you will show him respect.
yeah, of course.
So I feel, to the extent that I have any power in this at all, and I realize that when I'm not looking, stuff happens behind my back, you know, and they're out in the yard, and
Yeah,
occasionally
they're gonna do whatever they want back there. But
yeah. Well, so they're every time I hear growling, I know that Romy has been pushing Leo, and Leo is standing up to him. And if you saw that, you would see oh, well, why is Leo growling? Is he a bitter dog? Is he a bad dog? Well, Leo's not a bad dog. He's just defending himself.
of course, yeah, and that there is a correlation to human behavior though, where I know what you're saying, where a human will push somebody maybe in subtle ways, and then somebody snaps back, and then they'll sometimes say something about the person that snaps back, calls them passive aggressive, implies that they're not happy, when really they were being pushed to that point.
Right, exactly. So on the one hand, if I had to say who was happier right now, I would say Romy is happier. Well, he's younger, he's rambunctious, and he's not full of bitterness at all. Leo is a little bit less happy, but I try to make sure that he is happy. I feed them separately. I make sure that Leo, you know, gets good food, and that he's not slighted. And when I bring them in, I make sure that Leo has a place of honor on my bed. You know, I try really hard to show Romy how I would like Leo to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not that I don't like Romy. I like Romy too. And I show him a lot of affection too.
Of course, yeah.
I just don't want, I don't like people who are bigger and stronger pushing other people around.
Well, you're the very top, because humans have to be like the top dog, just like in
right,
the animal kingdom.
right.
So you have to show them that, hey, Leo is first. You can't just do whatever you want. And if you're in the house, especially, you can't just like push Leo aside to get the food bowl or something, you know?
Yeah, no, that cannot be, you know. So anyway, this is how I handle it without hating Romy, without thinking that Romy is full of badness. But the people, and they're kind of the karma people, you know. Sometimes they'll quote the Kabbalah, or they'll quote something that has a pseudo religious kind of connotation to it, and the implication is that everything comes out in the wash. I don't think it does. I don't think that the person who pushes another person around is necessarily doing it out of unhappiness.
Maybe not. And it could be the other side of the coin, where they're very happy and very exuberant, and they just think, well, hey, I should be top dog like Romy. I'm sure he's very happy with himself. He's a young, happy dog that has had good experiences. Right. That doesn't mean he's sad. He's just, that's who he is.
Right. So when people are vandalizing my other house and making it really hard for me to sell it, I don't necessarily think they're unhappy. I don't
I doubt they're unhappy. I think they're having a grand old time drugging it up.
Yeah. I don't psychologize it that way. I don't even think they do it just out of the meanness of their heart. I think they get something out of it. And that's my overall belief. And I don't think it's a negative belief. I think it's just an understanding about evolutionary psychology and how people's minds work. Yeah. And it's not necessarily that they know why they're doing it, but that's what they do. And I don't know if we have any time, but I thought I would tell you a story about some trouble that I had when I was in junior high. Do we have time, do you think?
Oh, do I remember that, or?
No. Do you think we still have time, or do you think?
Yeah, I have time if you have time.
Okay. All right. the phone might ring and then I'll have to cut it off.
Okay, yeah, we can always pick it up another time too. So just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is about a locker in junior high. I only spent 1 year in junior high because after that I left and I was homeschooled.
Hmm.
Okay, so this was my first year to be in a place where you get a locker.
Hmm.
And I guess everybody else was signing up to have a friend because you were supposed to share the locker with someone. But since I wasn't social, I didn't sign up for a friend. So when my locker was assigned to me, I got a locker to myself. And I was perfectly happy with that. And they said you had to get a lock, and my parents bought me a lock. It was a combination lock, had to learn how to use it, locked my locker, was pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
And then these two girls, Teresa and Denise, came up to me one day and they said, "Hey, Aya, we know that you're friends with Kim. Wouldn't you rather be sharing your locker? Wouldn't you rather? What we'd like to do is swap and you go and be with Kim. And then one of us who is now with Kim will do this, that, whatever." I don't know. It was some kind of thing where I would lose my locker alone. Okay. That was what they were suggesting.
Hoping for, yeah.
Yeah. And I did have a friend named Kim. We were friends, but I wasn't super friendly. So I would rather have a locker to myself if I could.
Of course, and you can be friends with somebody. I think it's better to have your own locker. I remember that from high school and middle school too. I liked it when I had my own locker because I did as well, by the way.
Yeah. So then they started. So I said, no, thank you. I'm perfectly happy with how it is. And maybe I didn't have the right to say that, but no teacher came around to say that I had to do it. If they had said, Aya, you have to do it, I would have said, okay. I just went by authority. But since that had been assigned to me, I was happy with it. I wasn't going to change my mind.
Yeah.
So then they started a campaign against me. They called me names. They threw things at me in the cafeteria. They threw food at me. And they got other people to join them in this. And when I complained about this to the teacher who was in charge of the cafeteria, she said, Aya, why don't you think about it? Perhaps you did something. I mean, of course, they shouldn't be throwing food at you, but have you thought about what you might have done to bring that on? And at the time, I even kind of totally forgot about the locker thing. I was just thinking, no, I don't think I ever threw any food at them. So no, I never called them.
That's really unhelpful though, because like, I don't like that. Like when an authority figure says, well, you must have done something. So, okay, you did something. So basically she's saying that was okay for them. Like she's kind of justifying their behavior, like saying, well, you should just go along with what they want and like acquiesce to them instead of like intervening and saying, you know what, this isn't acceptable. You can't throw food at somebody.
Right, exactly. So I spoke about this with my parents, and at the end of the year, we decided I was not going back to junior high. But the school never gave me my lock back.
You didn't get your lock back?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but they did not give me my lock back.
That's not good.
Yeah. So anyway, that's an example where insults are really a tool in order to get somebody to go away. Are you there? Oh, I think I lost you. Oh dear. Maybe the subject matter was a little too risque. I don't know. Okay, I am clearly alone in this. So I guess our time is really up because it's been about an hour. So if you would like to hear the rest of the story and the rest of the analysis of how sometimes insults are a speech act, join us some other time when we will continue the live stream. Thank you very much, and I'm ending the meeting.